Maneva na say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there osia dem yopo.
Memo baby arakwaba eba PENDREAM TV. Say we are new to the channel, subscribe to the channel and like video no na share ma afo fronso ensa enkabi. Lawyer Edudzi Tamakloe had to be amane eye EC boss Jane Mensah and afenso no NPP amanyoku no efa enhyehyaya omo pese omode go akwanmu efa 2020 and as a coming election yi me pese obekame ho na yatie ensema lawyer Edudzi Tamakloe ede atudwa sana yebeko no PENDREAM TV ewo another platform my friend no PENDREAM FM eho no yaje kwadwenkyere efa ensema ekoso ewo o my Ghana. Send a voice note efa send a message efa number ya eda screen so no yebe publish ama amansan ati wonka number ni 0277128777 yentie Edudzi Tamakloe.
Internal issue you have with anybody, this is the time to put Ghana first. This is the time to put John Mahama ahead of whatever personal issues you have with anybody, that together we can rescue this country from the maladministration, the pervasive corruption that we have seen in the past 7 years. The state of Ghana today is horrible, and it is important that we come together, we close whatever it is to rescue this beautiful republic.
You saw the pitch at Nalaruga and Robert Coleman with Wembley. They're doing something.
In fact, I need to thank Robert Coleman for the job he's doing, except to say that it appears that these astroturfs are going to particular constituencies and areas. I want to find out, is it a government project or is it a personal initiative? If it's being done with public funds, then I think that the distribution of the astroturf is skewed to particular constituencies. And if you look at this particular one, beyond, yes, it looks more like a vice president thing. You know, we are in the season of vote
But
buying.
you comment Robert Coleman for that?
No, as for the work he's doing, in terms of the quality of work, Robert has demonstrated.
Okay.
I mean, in normal, you know, like Guinness Book of Record kind of thing. You put it there. That's what you do. Yeah. But I'm saying.
So this one is Astroton.
Yeah, Astroton. You know, so this one he falls within the Guinness Book of Record for that category. My only issue is about the policy underpinning.
Okay.
How come that these astroturfs are skewed? Is it a government initiative? Is it coming from public funds? Okay. If it's so, we need to know what criteria is used in selecting the location.
Robert Coleman.
Beyond that, I think he's doing.
Shaibu Mohammed, you've joined us as well. Please make sure that you share so that we have an enjoyable conversation.
Excellently well.
Now, our first conversation will be around election 2024. We also do know that there are key issues we need to talk about. Yesterday, an event was held by the One Ghana movement, and Sonia Jose, good morning to you, doing some great work. It was headlined by former chair for the Electoral Commission, Dr. Firė, distinguished gentleman of our land, and then also we had speakers, former Attorney General Joe Gate, Marietta Bruhammond of Little Brew, former Attorney General as well, was very instrumental in that it lost case against Ivory Coast as well. All of them did review of Dr. Firė's comments as well, but he did make important concerns raised. For example, indelible inks in the district level election was not used, so it means that for the next election it's not going to be used. You need only Ghana card to onwardly now getting your name onto the register. 3 p.m., you know, closing time, etc. This is Dr. Firė.
The political parties can take a stand which constitutes an obstacle to the realization of the electoral rights of the people. When that happens, it is the duty of the Electoral Commission to uphold and protect the rights and interests of the people. I'd like to give a very simple example. The political parties once wanted the Electoral Commission to make it mandatory for people to produce their voter ID cards on election day before they are allowed to vote. The Electoral Commission said no to this no card, no vote campaign, explaining that it is the Constitution and not the card that creates the right to vote. The card makes it easy to identify you as a registered voter. So, on election day, if your name is on the register, which is the legal requirement, but you don't have the card with you, then the onus lies on you to identify yourself to the satisfaction of the persons conducting the election. Fortunately, the political parties eventually agreed with the Commission's position. In contrast, the current Electoral Commission's drive to make the Ghana card the only document for voter registration, when that card is not easily accessible to all Ghanaians, and its refusal to consider the request by the political parties to do the 2023 limited voter registration at the electoral area level, closer to the people than at the district level, would seem to indicate that the political parties are now the ones defending the interests.
And Palgrave, this should concern you, right? There seems to be a concern among key governance experts as well as also watch our election that the Electoral Commission seems to be dancing to the tune of some individuals unseen. Could it be government?
Well, Roland, I don't think that the Electoral Commission is dancing to any tune. The Electoral Commission is a very independent state institution. Need to state that I've reviewed the conversation. And in accordance to the Constitution, if you want to register into the electoral processes, you need to be a citizen of Ghana, you need to be 18 years old, you need to be of sound mind, you need to be resident in a constituency, and you need to be eligible. Now, in the registration processes as well, there are key indicators that you need to have when you are being registered into the voters register. The first is that you either would prove your date of birth with your birth certificate, or you would use your passport, or you would use your voter ID, or you would have a guarantor who would guarantee for you, or you would use any of the other ID, which is the Ghana card. I have a concern with the rate at which the Electoral Commission as a state institution is moving away from the very traditional way of how we know electioneering is done. The first is the move away with the indelible ink, that the Electoral Commission has stated that there is no need for an indelible ink because of the biometric. Need to say that the biometric machine is just a machine. It can fail you at any time. Point B, when you are going through electoral processes, especially in our just ended district assembly elections, and you go to do your verification and the machine does not verify you and there's a crowd of people and the EC official says just move to table 2, you would be moving to table 2 without being verified, and then you'll be able to exercise your democratic rights and franchise by voting. When you are done with that, you can have an opportunity again to come back and be verified. And so, which means that you have voted twice, but you've been verified once. But if you have an indelible ink, I mean, no matter how you would want to clean it, there would be some fabrics of the
because it's indelible.
On your hand.
It's almost temporarily permanent.
So I would state that the Electoral Commission needs to be slow with the processes of making these decisions, We can appreciate the dynamism of our governance process and our democratic process, but electoral justice demands that every well-meaning Ghanaian should not be disenfranchised from being registered into the voters register, and that's very key. I've also noted with concern the Electoral Commission's time of deciding to end an electoral process. I think that with our constitution, we've always known that elections are held between 7 a.m. and it ends at 5 p.m. If you are in the queue before 5 p.m., you would have an opportunity to exercise your democratic rights and responsibility, even if the election processes are ended at 7 because you were in the queue before 5 p.m. Now, the 2024 general election is a very, very key election for the New Patriotic Party, a very key election for the NDC as well. We are confident that our flag bearer, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, will take the lead in the 2024 election. It's also important that as we prepare to win the 2024 election from the New Patriotic Party, the Electoral Commission, who is a referee and one that is to ensure that the election is free, fair, and conducted in a transparent manner, would give all the indicators available so that for those of us that are political participators and political persons that are seeking electioneering will not feel that the election processes has been thwarted.
But Palgrave, there's a concern that there are key stakeholders in government who are somehow indirectly directing the Electoral Commission to do this.
I don't think
Close
so.
the polls at 3 p.m.
I have not seen any
non-use of indelible
I have not seen any key person in government who is behind this, and which is why, as a representative for the government and also for spokesperson on governance and security, I have stated very clearly that there are 5 ways within which persons can be able to register into the voters register. You need to show proof of your passport, you need to show your birth certificate, you need to show a Ghana card, you need to either have a guarantor or you need to have an old voters register.
That was what used to be the system.
That's what used to be. That was the CI 91. That was what used to be in the system. But then now the Electoral Commission is stating that the sole card that you need is the Ghana card. Now, just suppose that there's been close to about 13 million people that have been registered onto the Ghana card. 17 million. And in the election that we held, which was the 2020 general election, we had a total number of about 17 million people that projected. In the population census that was held as well, it's projected that by 2023, which is the year that just passed, we're going to have an electoral college of about 19 million people. Now, there's 17 million people that have the Ghana card. You have to remember that there are people who are less than 18 who have the Ghana card as well. But the voting responsibility and the voting age is from 18 years old. We will state that the CI that the Electoral Commission has presented to the House, which is the Chamber of Parliament, they need to reconsider it again, because the 2024 general election is very key. There's been various elections that have been held over the months and the years that should help us as a yardstick and a bedrock in making such critical decisions.
Edudzi, what do you make of this? Because he here is saying all this, but it doesn't look like the party nationally seem to also toe the same line.
You see, Roland, the Electoral Commission chairperson that we have now, in the person of Madam Jane Mensah, is a classic definition of I don't do what I say kind of people.
How so?
You see, this woman, proud to Akufo-Addo removing Charlotte Osei and replacing Charlotte with her. She was the head of a think tank, the IEA. Now, while she was the IEA boss, she used to periodically invite political parties, engage political parties with the Electoral Commission. And her posturing at that time was one that suggests somebody who wanted consensus, the rule of law, respect for same, electoral justice, among others. Until Akufo-Addo and Bawumia touched her, and then she changed. From the time she became the chairperson of the Electoral Commission to date, she has become Lord upon herself. She doesn't respect the laws of this country. What is even more worrying is that in the 2020 election petition, there was an opportunity, at least for the court to ask her to account for her stewardship. She escaped. And that has emboldened her to think that as a chairperson of the Electoral Commission, she can do whatever pleases her. Look, Roland, somewhere, I just want us to go to the law this Jane Mensah herself has made. So I want you to go to CI 127. And this is what it says. This is what it says. Mrs. Jane Mensah, Chairperson, Electoral Commission. Date of Gazette notification, 2nd July 2020. Public Elections Regulation 2020, CI 127. Now go to Regulation 33. It says, and I just want to read the whole law so we appreciate. A voter who desires to vote shall be present at the allotted polling station, and the presiding officer or polling assistant shall, after being satisfied that the voter A is a registered and has not already voted or is voting as a proxy, deliver the ballot paper to the voter. 2. Immediately before the ballot paper is delivered to the voter, A, the ballot paper shall be marked with the official validating stamp of the commission. B, instructive. The mark shall be placed on the copy of the register against the number of the voter to indicate that the ballot paper has been received. And now, listen to C. Regulation 33(2)C. It says, a mark shall so far as possible be permanent, shall be made on the voter. Listen, he said, a mark shall so far as possible be permanent, shall be made on the voter. The concept of the indelible ink. So she herself, 2nd July 2020, played before the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, pursuant to Article 11.7. This CI went through the 21 gestation period and has now become law. Madame Jane Mensah had decided that contrary to the express provision of CI 127, she will do what pleases her. Madam, who do you think you are? Madam Jane Mensah, who do you think you are? You are in that office by reason of the laws of this country. The reason why you, madam, you cannot be removed just for any reason is simply because we believe in the rule of law. So, Madam Jane Mensah, stop thinking of yourself beyond what you are. You are nothing without the laws of this country. That is one thing that you must understand. You yourself went to Parliament. This is not a seer that you took over from Madam Charlotte Osei, no, or Afarijan. You yourself made it. So if you look at the tail end of the instrument, it is said made by the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. CI 127, Regulation 33(2)C is there, clear. So what is wrong with you? I mean, and you see, Madam Jane Mensah is beginning to toil with the destiny of this country, and it's worrying.
But is it not true that the reality is that she's the chair of the Electoral Commission?
It matters not.
It is an independent electoral body.
No, listen.
Per Article 43 of the Constitution.
The independence of the Electoral Commission itself is a guarantee by the Constitution.
Yeah, sure.
CI 127 was made pursuant to Article 11.7 of the same constitution. So you cannot, in asserting your independence, decide which law to comply with and which one not to. It does not lie. In fact, she does not have an election. She cannot elect which laws of this country to respect or which one not to. No.
So what are the repercussions now?
No, because she is toying with the destiny of this country. Now, you see, from 1992, when the Indelible ink was introduced, the argument had been made that at that time, the register was not biometric, correct?
Sure.
And that to ensure that you prevent multiple voting, you needed the Indelible ink to place a permanent mark on a voter so that the person cannot vote, go and come back and vote. That was the reason.
To prevent double voting.
Good. So in the year 2010, when the idea of the biometric register came up, and it's a position that was canvassed also by the IEA. Now, when all this thing was said and done, right, then a decision was taken that, look, if you look at Article 42, Article 42 places only 3 requirements to vote: citizenship, sound mind, and age. It places no other qualification except these 3. So when we introduced the biometric register, then came the concept of verification. Then they said, okay, because we have unique biometrics, correct, and so your biometrics are unique from mine. And so if you go through the biometric verification, then that's fine. Then others came that, if you remember, in 2012, the idea was no verification, no vote.
Yes.
Then people said, no, that would be unconstitutional because Article 42 never contemplated the idea of a biometric verification. And so there should be what is called the manual verification. Now, if you have a situation where by reason of age or something, you have wiped your fingerprint so much that it cannot capture your biometrics, you don't want to disenfranchise that person, right? So they introduced the concept of verification. Now, if you look carefully at Regulation 32, which precedes this, it provides 2 qualifications. It said you either verify the person biometrically or you verify the person manually. Now, if you don't use indelible ink and the person is verified manually, if he votes and comes back, how would you identify that this person had voted already? And so the idea of the indelible ink is so crucial. And so this whole idea by Madam Jane Mensah that, because the register is biometric, in and of itself, prevents multiple voting, is short-sighted, completely misconceived, and she should not be encouraged to proceed on that. And you see, even when we have a biometric register, there have been conversations about this. And you don't want a situation where you'll be encouraging people to engage in this nefarious activity. I just want to read what the law says. He said, in the absence of voter identification card, the polling assistant shall identify the name and particulars of the voter as recorded in the name reference lists. You understand? So it is not only a biometric, and now it says, listen, where the biometric verification fails to verify a registered voter and the red light is shown with a voice message rejected, the polling assistant shall inform the agent and now complete a verification form. And that is when the concept of manual verification comes in. Now, without the indelible ink, and you have verified the person manually, how then do you make a determination that Roland has already come to vote?
Well, it's
the indelible
It's
ink.
a good point you made.
And that is why...
But this is what the response is from Madam Jane Mensah.
And
also
in
relation to the 3 p.m. So, Madam Jane Mensah.
Technology makes it difficult for a person who has been verified and cast their vote to come a second time. So there is no need for indelible ink.
The NDC is diametrically opposed to the Electoral Commission's decision not to use indelible ink during the election 2024. The discontinuation of the use of indelible ink in Ghana's elections at this stage will open the floodgate for nefarious activities that will compromise the integrity of our elections. Have we, as Ghanaians, said that we will not pay for the indelible ink? The EC must not make life easy for criminals to exploit our electoral process.
Well, she defends that. It's
No,
technology.
that is why I'm saying that even here, the law has...
You are saying it's an affront to the law. It's
yes, because she herself, look, regulation 32(6). It says, the verification officer shall draw a line across the barcode of the voter in the register to indicate that the voter has manually verified. So already the law contemplates manual verification. That's not technology. Manual verification.
And draw a line across the barcode of the voter.
And you see, the danger here is that within the Electoral Commission setup, the commissioners now, none of them has superior experience in electoral management.
What do you mean by that?
Yes, Professor Dr. Bosman Asari has no previous experience. Madam Jane Mensah has no previous experience. The only person that has some experience relative to election is Samuel Tete. Samuel Tete obviously doesn't take the decision. It is a decision taking. And that is why right from the beginning, the NDC had cautioned, including Nanado's deliberate decision to appoint Dr. Apiahene. We raised those concerns. The NDC even wrote a letter to the Council of State. The Council of State responded by saying that Pontius Pilate, we cannot do anything about it. We should be worried if where Jane Mensah is taking this country to.
If this is a concern and you are going for parliamentary elections, you want to go and stand as a member of parliament candidate or a parliamentary candidate, and you have Madam Jane Mensah, the chair of the Electoral Commission, espousing this, being the policy direction that will be in a CI ultimately for the next election, just in about 10 or to 11 months, you should be worried, shouldn't you? Because apart from you expressing this, it looks like the entire ruling party seems to be gay. You're all happy.
Well, Roland, I have expressed my concerns generally with the content of the CI. And I've stated very clearly that in the administration of our governance processes, it's a journey, it's not a sprint. And so we recall how it has been over the years with the use of indelible ink. We recall how generations have come and the purposes for which we have introduced biometric and the purposes for which the entire country has been digitized, and how we need to ensure that our electoral processes meet modern standards. Now, I've stated very clearly that how we do our internal political party elections, like what I'm going for on the 27th, and the Electoral College, which is extremely very small. So I have about 524 people that are going to vote in my Electoral College. You can end an election at about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and allow processes of counting and declare results at about 6 o'clock. But not when you have an election with a magnitude scattered across the length and breadth of this country, a magnitude of about 19 million voters, registered voters, that are going to exercise their democratic rights and responsibilities. And the biometric machine, which is supposed to be the first point of contact when you get to the table, and the number of people. Now, suppose that an electoral constituency of about 90,000, like my constituency, 90,000
Your constituency has
90,000 residents. Suppose that you take away the children and the other people that cannot vote, maybe about, maybe, let me see, about 30,000. If you put it, just suppose about 30,000 people or even 35,000 people that would vote. If you have done your voting at the various polling stations and your biometric machine has counted about 25,000 and it freezes, suppose that it freezes, what happens? You need to ensure that you have a backup plan.
Or goes offline.
Or goes offline. you need to ensure that you have a backup plan. The backup plan is the wisdom in the indelible ink. And I think that it won't cost us much as a country. We want the 2024 general election to be as free, as fair, as transparent as all elections have been. Much as we are confident as a party that Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will remain victorious in the 7th December 2024 general election, we are also assured that any other person who would come up with an issue of an election not being done in a fair manner and sent the election to court would have all evidences thereby, by not stating that because there was not an indelible ink in one particular constituency, there were persons that voted double and then there were stuffing of the ballot box with ballot papers. I think that with all the conversations that are being held, I've stated, for your name to go on the election register, you need to be a citizen of Ghana, you need to be above 18 years old, you need to have sound mind. There are 5 key things that you need to have to show that you're a citizen of Ghana. The first is your birth certificate, which every Ghanaian has. The second is your passport, if you've traveled before, you would have. The third is a voter's register, if you've registered in previous elections. The fourth is the Ghana card, which we have introduced in recent times in our government. And then the fifth is a guarantor system. Now, if you remove all these 4 from the CI 91, and in your new CI introduce that you only need a Ghana card as an aggregator within the 2024 general election to be registered as a credible voter, I think that you are going ahead of the game. We would gradually get there in terms of ensuring that the Ghana card becomes a single aggregator when we know that every single Ghanaian has that Ghana card. And I'm glad that the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party and the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has stated that every single child now who is born would have that unique identifiable number, which means that in the next few years, when people are turning 18, they would have that unique identifiable number, which is an aggregator with your birth certificate, an aggregator with your GPS, with an aggregator with your social security number, an aggregator with your biometric details. Then we can be able to state that we would now take away the 5 key indicators of your birth certificate, your passport, your license, your guarantor system, and now decide that we'll use the Ghana card only as the preserve and reserve for you to be registered into the voter register. So I think that wisdom demands that let's go according to what we know in terms of our traditional system, whilst we introduce these charismatic, orthodox ways of doing things in the electoral justice.
Charismatic, orthodox ways of doing things. But it also means that the Electoral Commissioner, apart from these public utterances, perhaps we need to find a better way, or you, the political stakeholders, need to find a better way of making her and her assistant or deputy see reason in the concerns that are being raised. Is that not it?
No, Roland, you see, there is the Interpolitical Committee, which is the IPAC, which is part of the EC. I think that the various political parties have representatives who go into those meetings. We, as a New Patriotic Party, have representatives who go into the meetings. It's important that we air these views because, you see, we've done elections from 92 to 96 to 2000.
There's a concern that as a ruling party, you only pay the lip service.
I do not think so. I do not think so. I do not think that that.
Now, even if we go to the CI 91, as part of the concerns that have been raised not only by you, but also again re-echoed or reiterated by the distinguished Dr. Farijan, is also the concern about who registers, where you register, and how you do the registration. Because before you even get to the voting center, you should have registered. And we know that in the last registration period that was undertaken in the last year, there were people who were asked to come to district centers instead of registration centers at the polling stations. If you take a look at the CI 91, it says that in designing into a place as a registration center, the commission shall take into consideration the suitability of the place for use as a polling station on election day. That's in designating the place. And then also in the registration, you also have to ensure that the individuals do the registration at the polling center. So why do I have to go to a district center to go and register? And now we have come onwardly to go looking for my polling station.
Roland, you are from a typical aware community. Madam Jane Mensah typically behaves like in our villages what you call legba. You know legba? Good. And the reason why she behaved that way is that the legbas in our villages, nobody questions them. They are laws unto themselves. And that is how Jane Mensah sees herself. She sees herself as a deity that had been, imposed on Ghanaians. Because you see, CI 92 has been amended by the same Jane Mensah. And when she was amending CI 91, she left this provision there. So it is in the law. And the law is clear that in considering that, consider the suitability. I mean, on this platform, we have canvassed that argument that it doesn't make sense to limit registration to only district centers. And you know now the danger. Once you do at the district level, the other problem is now distributing the voters to the specific polling stations. Can you imagine on election day, you, Roland, you go to a particular polling station, believing that that is your polling station, only to be told that no, you registered at the district and your name has been taken to a different place. The chaos on election day. All this common sense engagement with Madam Jane Mensah had fallen on deaf ear. And you see, Madam Jane Mensah believes that her protection is not coming from the Constitution. She believes that her protection is coming from Akufo-Addo and the continuous stay of NPP in power. Because you see...
Why do you say that? When clearly the independence of the Electoral Commission is enshrined in the Constitution.
So, you see...
You're a lawyer.
Exactly. You see, for us, it was unthinkable for the chairperson of an Electoral Commission to be removed. It was just unthinkable until Akufo-Addo did that. And so Madam Jane Mensah, Bosman Asari, Apiahini and co. believe that the Constitution is no longer the one providing them security or tenure, but Akufo-Addo and the NPP. Because it does not just make sense. Look, went from this whole notion that you live not even electoral areas, not even polling station, straight to the district. And if you pick Ghana demographic, let me give you a classic example. Okucheto Ablakwe's constituency. The constituency headquarters is at where? Bato. Correct.
Correct.
Good. Fojoku, you know Fojoku? Look at from Fojoku to Bato. Look at from Juapon. What people don't know is that Juapon is in North Tongue.
Yeah.
So
close to the eastern region.
Eastern, just by Esujaman. You are leaving Juapon right to Bato to get a voter's card. I mean, does it make sense? This woman believes that Ghana is East Legon, where she grew up. No, madam. Ghana is not East Legon or airport residential area. Ghana is bigger and wide. Look, if you pick a place like Nkwanta South, Nkwanta is the district capital. But you need somebody to move from Kiri, Kwe, to come to Nkwanta.
Which are far off.
Extremely far, several kilometers. I mean, as an Electoral Commission chairperson, I wonder if from the time Akufo-Addo appointed, if she had done a nationwide tour to appreciate the demographics. And that is why I am disappointed in person like Serebo Okwaku, Samuel Tete, who have been with the commission for many years. Serebo Okwaku, for instance, has his PhD from UCC in election-related matters. Are these the kind of advice you are giving, James?
Well, they say it is possible.
No, hold on. These are the technical minds. You can excuse James that, okay, she is just coming from civil society, private sector. She does not appreciate how these things work. You are her technical minds. Is that the kind of technical advice you are giving her, Mr. Samuel Tete? Dr. Siribo Kwaku? Would you be able to defend this as a PhD? That somebody from Kwi or Jerepanga should come to Nkwanta town just for a vote. Jerepanga. Just by the Togo border. I mean, if you understand Ghana, you will not be doing the kinds of things Madam Jane Mensah is doing. And look, beyond Accra, even here in Accra, okay, pick Shah Osudoku as a constituency. The constituency capital is Dodowa, right? You have to move from Doyumu. You have to move from Esuchari just to come here. Look at a place like Lower Manya. You are moving from Akusi right to Lower Manya just to get a voter's card. The demographics are not even. And we have said that, look, even if you not do it in all the electoral areas, select some places. It demonstrates a certain appreciation of the dynamic. 2, 2024, 7 December is a Saturday. And I've always maintained, from my rural background, right? My rural people usually will go to farm early in the morning before they will come and vote. And this particular election, like 1996, falls on a Saturday, right? And so you need to have a law that recognizes the social demographics. Many of our people, your constituency, for instance, is a farming constituency.
Very much, very much.
Many of the
and you are supporting this?
Hold on. So
supporting what?
Many of the 90,000 in his constituency would want to go to farm quickly and come back. And if you look at queue dynamics, you see that early morning the queues are longer. Late in the afternoon the queues become longer again. What it means is that people will do something quickly, go and do some and come back. Now, if you want to close polls at 3 p.m., what is going to happen is that, 1, you are going to disenfranchise many of our compatriots who would have to make a decision as to who leads this country, whether in parliament or at the presidential level. And that is why the NDC, yesterday speaking through the national chairman, General Mosquito, made the point clearly that we are diametrically opposed to any idea to have an election without indelible ink, 2, to close polls at 5 p.m. And like Afarijan said, and let me make this point, he said, look, the whole idea of adding the regional coalition center in our electoral architecture does not make sense. And he said, look, Madam Jane Mensah claimed that she learned this from the Nigerians. The Nigerians were looking for a better way of transmitting election results. So even Nigeria is looking at how to move away. And you see, the problem with electoral transmission of results is that you do not want to create multiple layers, because the more the layers, the more the likelihood of manipulation. So if the easier transmission, the better. And that is why the party had made it so clear that as for the regional, interface for transmission of results, we are not going to. The point had been made that the Electoral Commission is an independent constitutional body.
Which is well enshrined in Chapter 7, yes.
So, if the Electoral Commission is independent, then there is no need for an IPAC. Nobody, and let the point be made.
And yesterday, Dr. Afarijan did say that IPAC's advice
is critical. And look, when you go to IPAC, Madam Jane Mensah had deliberately gotten some minority parties revived. And the whole idea is that at IPAC, once NDC oppose and NPP say, oh, what Madam Jane Mensah is doing, we like it, they get these smaller parties. And because it's going to be a vote, they'll say, oh, the majority had carried the date. And if you recall, she did something recently at IPAC. Prior to the last limited registration exercise, the political parties actually met Bosman Asari at IPAC. And Bosman actually saw that, look, there is wisdom in having the registration at that lower level to increase the level of people registering. Madam Mensah was not at that IPAC. The next thing is that she takes a decision. And she'll tell you that IPAC decisions are not binding on her. She runs an independent body.
Okay. Pado on a stream.
Independence is not
Pado on a stream says,
building.
all of you in the studio, what you are saying, Jim Mensah is not hearing you people. Oh. You are just talking. So please stop talking. And then we also have Gizoba Martin says that Madam Jim Mensah, certainly as the head of the Electoral Commission, doesn't seem to appreciate how far and wide Ghana is. Maria Adam says, does the independence and its work also include denying some people their right to choose their representation in Parliament? The people of Sao have been paying taxes since the 2020 elections and yet don't have a representative in the studio. In Parliament. Let me just also read before we go on to the next issue. The next issue that has great supervision when it comes to the decisions that were taken by Grace outfits to cancel that result. So this one is coming from Matilda, and he says, Roland, close at 3 p.m. Ghana's election. What about workers who will not be exempted but will work on that day? What about those who live in rural communities would have to go to work like farms, etc., and come back in the afternoon to vote? Even if they are few, they don't have to be disenfranchised. Alfred Kojos Treadle says, the Electoral Commission chaired by Madam Jim Mensah is doing everything possible to plunge this country into chaos because majority of Ghanaians will resist any attempt for the EC to manipulate or rig the election. This one is coming from Cecilia Kwete. Says, I am not surprised that she's being remotely controlled. It is possible. It deepens the perception and trust or lack of it for the Electoral Commission. Master Planner says, Edudzi Tamakloe and his NDC, they've lost the 2024 general elections already. That's why they are shivering and blaming the EC officials. I know they have selected him as part of their legal team because they will take it to court again. Congratulations in advance to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the next president of Ghana 2024, Master Planner Junior Kintampo. Esojamine District, and this one is coming from PHK. Esojamine District head is in Atimpoku. That is the Esojamine District head office of the EC. It's in Atimpoku. Enumboso resident must travel from Enumboso through Asekuma, Finte, Frankedua, places I know very well, Apegusu, Japon, etc., to Atimpoku to get a voter ID. The distance is more than 80 kilometers. And it will cost each resident over 80 Ghana cedis as TNT. Prince Henry, please give me some of the TNT so that that day I'll be ready. If this is normal. Now, Alhaji Hamza says, Mr. Siedun Ketia, chairman of the largest opposition party, has spoken so well, and it shall be my humble opinion, he has spoken the minds of Ghanaians. Now, let's go to why a convention. Convention that was well publicized. We have had Professor P.L. Lumumba of Kenya, distinguished wise speaker. The last time I was in Ghana, I was speaking at an event to mark the memorial lecture of our former president, Professor John Evans Atamios, at the Kenya State campus. And then also Julius Malema of South Africa, you know him as well. And then we had that great ambassador of the AU who decided to turn off her position and then be speaking on African affairs. And of course, Peter Obi, who contested the last presidential election of Nigeria. And Pagbachi Dankwa, speaking for governance and security, or for the government, another Dankwa Kufado's government, you decided to cancel the event. And swarm of people, if not hundreds of people, almost thousands, were just turned away. Why did you cancel that event, Palgrave?
Well, I think that political honesty is important for anybody who endeavors to enter into a democracy and to be a player. When the letter was received at the presidency,
which letter?
The organizers of the new phase, the people behind the new phase, when the letter was received at the presidency at the Diaspora Affairs, they stated that they were going to have a Black Star Line music and art festival for 2024.
Say that again.
They stated that they were going to have a Black Star Line music.
Do you have the letter of application?
Oh, but Roland, the RTI is there. If you want to have a look at it, you can always request for it. They stated that they wanted to have a Black Star Line music and art festival for 2024. But in the motive of what they so desired to do was what was highlighted, and it was important. And I've stated that we woke up one day in this country and all we saw were billboards with masks. For me personally, and there's no government, for me personally, I was concerned because we are in an environment where threats against our democracy and our peace is very high, especially surrounded within.
Are you saying the event will threaten national security?
Just a minute. I didn't say that. I said,
what are you saying?
We woke up one day and there were billboards scattered across the length and breadth of this country with masks. And we are in an environment where threats against our democracy is important. Neighboring countries have had military juntas. Various neighboring countries have had terrorist attacks. And so for me, immediately, that was a concern. That was number one. In the lead up as well, the persons that they are invited are very respected persons in their own right. Very, very respected persons in their own right. From Peter Obi, who lost an election in Nigeria and is contesting that, to Julius Malema, who is well known in South Africa for his freedom conversations, and to PLO Lumba, who is a Pan-Africanist, a theorist and an idealist. Practicalism demands that if you want to be involved in our political space and be an actor and a player, you become politically honest and states very clearly that you want to launch your political activism at a state apparatus, which is the Black Star Line. Now, the Black Star Line, the Black Star Square, is a national security environment, very, very, very key to the architecture of this country, and very, very, very key.
The Independence Square is
Independence Square.
It's a what environment?
It's a national security environment. It is a national security environment.
How so?
No, but then do you recall in years past when people wanted to do demonstrations?
When did you receive the letter of application? Which date?
And this was in November of last year.
Did you give approval for the event or not?
The approval was given for the Black Star Line Music and Arts Festival, not for a launch of a political campaign and movement.
Now, in approval processes based on standard operating procedures, which I know you're very much aware of, do those who give the approval ask further and better particulars in terms of what events beyond what is put on the letter?
I'm very certain that...
Or approvals are just given on the face off?
Not at all. I'm very certain that, there were a lot of questions that were asked. They paid 10,000 Ghana cedis.
Now, let me put something on the screen. Let me put something on the screen
for
you. Let me put that. And this has been widely advertised before that day. Because I received this back in the period, before even the December date. Not this one. Poster. No, not this one. Okay, this one I gave Barbara, sorry. Just right now. Okay, so on the poster, and this poster is wide, the last one I gave Barbara, if we can have it on the screen, Barbara. And now, if you have, it says, the convention igniting the voices of Africa, and these are posters that are public. They'll be on the screen so that people don't think that maybe it's just a figment of our imagination. Actually, let me send it to you as well.
I have it.
Oh,
are you not talking about this poster?
Which one?
The one on your timeline, this one?
Very good.
Yeah, I have it.
Very good.
I have it.
And it has on it the date announced, and then music by Wiala. You know Wiala?
I know Wiala.
Do you know Stoneboy?
I know Stoneboy.
Do you also know Efia?
Oh, Efia was my disciple.
Great. So your disciples who are musicians, who are recognized international artists of Ghanaian origin, are there. What else did you want to know, again, about an event?
Roland, you are having an event, and your letter that you wrote to the Diaspora Affairs at the Office of the President states that you are having a Black Star Line Music and Arts Festival. A Black Star Line Music and Arts Festival, not a convention of Dr. Arikana of Zimbabwe, PLO Lumumba, Julius Malema, and Peter Obi. These are very astute Pan-Africanists. You can have such an event in any of the distinguished hotels in this country.
But not at the Independence Square.
Not in the motive of it. The motive of it is that you are politically launching your political activism in a sovereign country. When one wanted to stand for independence, he launched it in a hotel. You know that.
Are you saying because Alan Chermanting launched his campaign, Movement for Change campaign in a hotel, any other political activity, so to speak, aligned to an outdooring of any personality or movement or an institution should be convened in an enclosed environment? Is that what you're saying?
Should be
spokesperson for governance and security.
Should be convened not on a state property.
Hey, when did it become law?
Well, it's not about the law.
It's about
the security of it.
Okay.
You know, Roland, it's about the security of it. The Black Star Square is none other place. It's a place where we swear in our presidents. It's a place where in years past, until Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo came and regionalized our independence, it's a place where we hold our independence. It's a place where relevant...
Do you know Shatawale was even wanted to do?
That is why it was granted if it was music. You were going to have a Black Star Line. No, you see, it was the musicians on the poster as a side attraction.
Okay.
I mean,
you say it was a charade.
They
used
a side attraction.
The
political integrity and honesty is important, Roland.
Okay.
And I think that the organizers were not honest.
As we wrap up, what do you make of this? Just in 5 minutes.
So, you see, ordinarily this matter, I want to look at it from a different angle.
Which is?
You see, first of all, the conversation that particular area, right, is a state property. There's no doubt about it.
Sure.
And I want to believe that is why even the organizers themselves felt it was important to write to government officials to get their permission to use the place. Now, I understand Paul Grave to say that, listen, the reason for the request was a concert. And that later, they realized that there was a political undertone in the conversation. I mean, that you would say maybe they didn't disclose the full matters. But there is a certain level of apprehension among government officials that I feel is not good. It looks like the president himself is paranoid.
Why do you say that?
Because, like I pointed out, just July, Professor Lumumba was in this country for the Professor Mills Memorial Lectures at KNUST. There was no problem. Peter Obi, very responsible gentleman, one time vice presidential nominee for the PDP, subsequently became the Labour Party candidate. Arguably a fine gentleman. Julius Malema, I like what he does in the South African Parliament, so I'm always glued to the South African parliamentary conversation. And the other lady, Dr.
Arikana.
Exactly. These are quite harmless individuals. So even for the sake of argument, assuming that the original reason they gave, it has turned out that they were up to something different. I mean, what was it for? A government and a president that is terra firma, in control of the affairs of this state, should not be behaving panicky. And coming from Akufo-Addo even makes it a bit more interesting.
Why?
This is the current president now. Once he was opposition leader, was he not the one who imported the South African mercenaries into this country? Was he not the one who brought the Serbian mercenaries to come and teach NPP how to assault the pillars of power? Is it not curious that these are people who even brought mercenaries using a private security company owned by McDonald? Today, a speech conversation where people will come and deliver speeches, you are scared. You see?
Well, he says it's for national security.
No,
and I have to state that we disassociate ourselves from the statement of mercenaries being brought in.
Oh, no. I mean, you can do whatever you want.
No, I want to disassociate. No, wait. You're a lawyer, so
okay,
let me do that.
Okay,
I want to disassociate this platform and then also Media General and TV3 from that statement you made about mercenaries, so-called, being imported into the country by the opposition leader, the now president.
And
because it also then follows into a question that Matilda Boateng is asking. It says, from the time that the application was made and the time of the event, there was a time lapse. Usually, approvals by state protocol for such venues will involve meeting organizers prior to event day. Did they follow up? Did they do the follow-ups? The event after the application approval was well advertised with Wiala, etc., all on the posters. Didn't the state protocol as well as the security apparatus notice that even in the public domain and call the organizers to order before taking that decision the last day or last hour? Is that a good question?
I mean, these are legitimate inquiries, and that is what democratic governance does, so that it prevents arbitrariness. Because you see, the reason why sometimes you need to avoid arbitrariness is that people spend money. In putting such thing together, they would have paid the speakers or something. Their airfare and the rest, hoteling, bookings, and all of those things. They come last minute, you cancel it.
Okay.
You put them at great expense. I was thinking that possibly the organizers should have rather used the route of the police, because it was going to be a public assembly that pursuant to the Public Order Act, they would have used the police. That makes it easier for future purposes. Because you are going to assemble.
Does it mean you agree with the cancellation?
Who?
You.
No. I mean, why? Because this is of no moment politically. I mean, who doesn't know Cheddar? And like I always make the point, with all his investment, this will be the last person who wants to destabilize this country. He's the owner of Quales and the rest, right? Such a person, he needs peace to enjoy whatever wealth or benefit that he has.
All right.
And so such individuals, he will be the last person to want to destabilize. The only problem is that Akufo-Addo is paranoid. He has not ruled this country well. And so at every material moment, he is in a state of paranoia. You remember the story of Emperor Nero of Great Rome. Akufo-Addo finds himself in that state now. He's completely paranoid.
That's not appropriate. You can't state that a certain president, Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, in his own right, one who has led this country very well from 2017, 2018, 19, won an election in 2020, is paranoid. I don't think.
You don't think it's a good adjective to use?
I don't think that's a good adjective.
I mean, that is what he is.
Okay, gentlemen. I have 2 minutes to wrap up. In there, I have to read comments as well. So Brenda and Barbara, Deborah, they've all allowed me, my lead producer for the morning, and then also Brendan Shandov. But there's an observation I also made, and Essel also drew my attention. In the public notice to the public on the revocation of the permits, it does indicate that the permission granted per the letter has been revoked. The decision has been necessitated by an unforeseen state event scheduled to take place at the venue. But Palgrave here says that because this one, we're told that it is an event, but he says it for security reasons and things like that. I think there's a certain misnomer in that level of information, but we'll see how that goes. So let me just read a couple of your messages.
The security reason is the more. It's not what is
Kizito from Tema East constituency says, Roland, good morning. It seems Palgrave is confused and doesn't know what to say. Now, public facilities have become national security threats to Ghanaians. He's asking a question. Now, this one also is coming from Cecilia Kwete. It says, Ghana, as well as other African countries, are not evolving the reason these men and women volunteer to speak their minds in sensitizing the people towards the cause of good governance and democratic progress. It doesn't call for any changes at all. And then we also do have Guy G. Guy G from Cantonment says, Roland, Ghana is the last bastion standing when it comes to West Africa. Let no one think national security is dumb. We do not necessarily have to agree with them, but we shouldn't forget that they might have done the cost-benefit analysis of the last-minute action and have taken the decision. Why is Nana Kwame Bediakun, aka Cheddar, adopting this approach? If he really intends well, if he wants to contest elections in Ghana, he should just come straight forward and stop the hide-and-seek strategy. Ghana should not allow its land to be used to launch any needless African agenda. Guy G, Cantonment Accra. Guy G, good morning, wherever you find yourself.
You got this one wrong.
And good morning, Roland. My name is Masawudu Hamza Jr. Capello. In fact, the Kufado-led NPP is so intolerant and paranoid. It is doing all this because of JDM, you say. And then I have this one from Sam. A blood person asks, Paragraphs are classified as an application for using a space that you need an RTI to be able to access. In tenets of transparency will require that he, Paragraphs, provides other piece of it. And that's some giving me this one. And then also, I have, Julius Tahir. And then I have Richard Kumado says, on election day, there could be a delay in transporting, distributing, and movement of election materials. We've seen it all across our elections. And election officers to general polling stations will also delay, even to specific polling stations. And that should be watched as against closing the polls at 3 p.m. Now, we have others as well. But money need money. Oh, my good friend, money need money says, my brother, Jane Mensah took money from Parliament to buy facial verification and other technologies. Did she buy it and did she use it during the 2020 elections and recent election? Is a question. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen.
PENDREAM TV. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.